You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, it's February 13th, 2023 meeting of the Long Beach Town Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Town Council meeting of February 13th. First, we'll have the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight, since we have our president on Zoom, hello, Dr. LeMay. All our votes have to be registered, so we will abide by those rules. I don't have any opening remarks. Bob, do you have any opening remarks?
No.
The first thing we're going to do is approve the minutes of the January 9th, 2023 meeting, and also there was some corrected minutes of an earlier meeting with no objection. Can we have a motion to approve those?
I make that motion.
Second.
I've got one correction to make on that meeting that says that the Budget and Finance did not meet. We did not meet before the council meeting in January, but she said we didn't meet in January. We did meet on the 25th. So we probably ought to make that correction just so that we know that we did meet in January.
Okay, with those corrections, any other corrections or additions? With those corrections, all in favor?
Oh,
Roll call. Bob?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
aye.
Coker, aye. John?
Wall, aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed, minutes approved. We're gonna, with no objection, we're going to change the agenda around just a bit. Have the first two items on, on new business go right now. The issue on the vacant lots and also retaining wall and parking area near the water tower. I think Greg and Mary Lou and I don't know, Chief?
He wants to do service awards first.
Okay, before we do that though, we're gonna do some service awards, so we're changing things up a little bit. Anything to keep me confused, right, Chief?
Yeah, doesn't take much.
Not much, not much.
Good evening, everyone. The town of Long Beach would not be the exceptional community that it is if it were not for its professional and dedicated employees. And therefore, this evening, we would like to honor 3 of the town's employees with service awards. At this time, I would ask Chief Deputy Marshal James Schooley to please join me up front.
Do you want us to save our applause?
After each one, we can do it, yes. In grateful appreciation to Chief Deputy Marshal James Schooley, since January 2nd, 1998, you have served the Long Beach Police Department with the utmost dedicated public service and professionalism. Your many years of service are a true testimony of your dedication, exceptional work ethic, and you are truly appreciated for your 25 years of service. Please accept our sincere gratitude for your dedicated service to the Long Beach community. Congratulations, and we wish you the very best as you continue to serve our community. And it's presented on behalf of the Long Beach Town Council. Congratulations. Thank you. I'd just like to add that Sergeant Schooley does an exceptional job overseeing the patrol operations for the police department. I couldn't ask for a better person to have as my right hand to help me through the day and that, so sincerely I appreciate all Jim's help each and every day. So thank you again, Jim. I would ask the Water Superintendent, Greg Parrish, to join me. In grateful appreciation to Superintendent Greg Parrish, since February 14th, tomorrow, as a matter of fact. 2003, you have served the Long Beach community with the utmost dedicated public service and professionalism. Your many years of service are a true testimony of your dedication, exceptional work ethic, and you are truly appreciated for your 20 years of service. Please accept our sincere gratitude for your dedicated service to the Long Beach community. Thank you, and we wish you the very best in the future as you continue to serve our town. Presented on behalf of the Long Beach Town Council. Congratulations. Deputy Jason Speakman, if you could please join me. In grateful appreciation to Deputy Marshal Jason Speakman, since June 19th, 2008, you have served the Long Beach Police Department with the utmost dedicated public service and professionalism. Your many years of service to the Reserve Deputy Marshal Unit are a true testimony of your dedication, and you are truly appreciated. Please accept our sincere gratitude for your dedicated service to the Long Beach community. Congratulations, and we wish you the very best as you begin your new career as a Deputy Marshal with the Trail Creek Police Department. Presented on my behalf and Chief Deputy Marshal James Schooley. On Jason's behalf, I'd just like to add a couple of things. LaPorte County had 3 reserve deputy marshal units for some time. The Michigan City Police Department, the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department, and the Long Beach Police Department. Jason Speakman was one of the first members that joined here at the Long Beach Police Department and stayed with the program, coming up on almost 16 years this year. He was given the opportunity to go full-time with the Trail Creek Police Department. He accepted that here in the last 30 days. He just began working the road in the town of Trail Creek, so we wish him the very best there, that he continues to stay safe. And again, if it were not for Jason, our program probably would not be what it is today, and we are the only police department remaining in LaPorte County that still has a reserve deputy unit. So the other 2 no longer have those units, but we still continue to serve our community. So thank you again, all 3 gentlemen, and congratulations.
Very good. Now, Greg, you get to come back up again and...
Can I add one agenda item before you go for, just so it's on there? Later on, we're going to talk about something called the RAVE. It's something that the LaPorte Emergency, it's called RAVE. It's just an informational thing. I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. Just throw it on there for later on.
Okay.
RAVE. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, one of the proposals that's before you tonight is for the Long Beach Water Department to construct a retaining wall at the water tower, just up the hill here from the town hall. In recent years, Water Superintendent Greg Parrish has continued to watch the sand erosion that is occurring on the hill where the water tower is located. And we have come up with a proposal to place a retaining wall that will assist in stopping the erosion, but in addition to that, it will allow for a parking space for either our water department or another service contractor that needs to come in to work on the water department. Often when they're on the hill working on the water department, they'll park right on Foxdale, which is a traffic hazard. We want them off of the roadway so we do not have someone going around them into oncoming traffic. So therefore, we have 2 proposals that we had sought to construct the retaining wall and then also put in the gravel parking space there. One of the proposals was for $70,877.88, and the second proposal was for $17,584. In review of the 2 proposals, there is a difference in the retaining wall material that will be used, but we are confident with the retaining wall material used in the lower bid, which would save us approximately $50,000, that we would like to go ahead with Felatovich Construction for the total cost again of the project for $17,584. And in speaking to the water superintendent, we have that budgeted in the 2023 water department budget. Therefore, we will not be asking for any additional funding from any other line item.
What's the difference in material?
The stone that would be used on the higher price is quite more expensive.
It's the Ready Rock. They put it at 21 or 23. It's the big stone.
Okay,
We just thought it looked nice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the $17,584 with
Filatovich.
Filatovich.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Oh, you
Oh, wait a minute, we have to do it.
gotta go on down.
I will. All in favor, Coker, yes?
McFadden, yes.
Bob? John?
John Wall, yes.
Mike Johnstone, yes.
Okay, passed. What's the next item?
Vacant lots.
You gonna take the vacant lots?
Greg's gonna talk to, or I can.
Well, one of you.
Okay, this was from Chief Swestek from January 31st. He said, "This morning I met with the Water Department staff, referenced the recent discussion, and shared emails related to the current fees charged to vacant lots. Currently, we do not have an ordinance establishing the fee structure for vacant lots, and the group recommended that the town council considered such an ordinance. The ordinance could be titled Ordinance Establish Fees Related to All Vacant Lots. Regardless if the landowner has a water tap or not, certain fees need to be made more clear. Listed below are some of the discussion points from today's meeting. Councilwoman McFadden has this matter on the February 13th Town Council meeting under new business already. The consensus after today's meeting, and by the way, I wasn't present on this, was to recommend, but we have talked about this in the Public Works. And the Public Works Committee voted 6-1. So, that the town council consider drafting an ordinance that would set the fee structure. Just want to share this information prior to the upcoming meeting. Lynn or Greg, please feel free to add anything if I missed anything. So currently we have an ordinance related to the fee for water connection, water service, and water taps. Vacant lot fee structure is not listed in any ordinance currently. Some vacant lots are currently charged water service fees and do not use any water, nor do they have a water meter on their vacant lot. Vacant lots should be charged the monthly fees for stormwater $15, fire protection $260 plus tax, optional fees for leaf removal and refuse pickup. That could be optional. Some communities choose to charge a system development fee at the time of the water service connection, when the capital fees are not charged monthly previously. Carl Cinder brought this to our attention last year and is estimated by using a calculation that he could explain further. We believe there's a state statute that it covers this fee charged at the time property owner decide to connect to town services. That's it.
Greg?
So I'd like Greg to expound on it. We've talked about it since last fall in our meetings, and when I was in the water department, there were probably 9 people, and the key thing, even though we didn't have an ordinance, and I'm not sure why we charged it, but if you had a tap, which meant you could have access to water, didn't mean you were using water, then we charged them everything. And I think it came to light, there was a guy down in Oriole last year, and Lynn had me come in and call him, and he called I'm trying to think of what he told me. He said, okay, I understand, I get it, but he said he calls it, this is ridiculous, I wasn't using water all those months. And so what we're looking at, and we do have Lynn on projects looking at all the vacant lots, but right now we're talking about 9 lots.
Yeah, and we've actually even got it narrowed down to like 7 now.
Okay.
And basically what we'd like to do is if you have a vacant lot and you have infrastructure for a water service, and you're not using it, we don't feel you should be charged the rate. You can charge for the town services, the fire protection, stormwater.
And if
We
they
just want to get
choose
the water.
leaf removal, or if they wanted refuse.
Right. And kind of caveat those two,
Yeah.
I guess. All the water departments that I've talked to, nobody charges anything for infrastructure that's in a vacant lot, a buildable lot. As long as it's not metered, they're not being charged anything.
And John, and for Dr. LeMay, I did do some research on that. I reached out to Michigan City and I reached out to Trail Creek, because those are our surrounding areas.
So
And they don't.
we can do a reconnection fee. If somebody were to, any one of these people that have this, the existing tap on a vacant lot, in the future, if they want to, they sell it, somebody buys it, wants to build, we can always do a reconnect fee.
Right.
You know, it's something we'll just have to discuss and what we want to charge for that.
Right.
But we can get with Chris and Mark and Mary Lou or whatever, and we can come up with some fees, but we're not going to be losing any money by not charging these people for these monthly fees. You know, it's already paid for.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, if you had NIPSCO or come out and take your gas and electric out, once they take it out, they're not charging you anything after that. They're gonna ding you when you hook it back up.
Right.
But that's kind of where we want to be at too with that. So that's all I have.
Anybody have any comments on this? John?
I guess if I understand our billing correctly, the water base fee covers the infrastructure improvements. And then what you guys are suggesting is, I want to understand this, are you suggesting the water base fee would not be charged to these people?
The water-based fee would not be charged. They'd only be charged for stormwater and fire protection.
Okay.
And
The
I think
water-based fee was for the major work we did in,
2005, 2006.
Right.
okay.
But only 2 of those lots were installed in 2005 and 6.
Yeah, but the point is that that's a community project that everybody pays for. And I think it's tough to differentiate between a property, a guy that's got maybe 2 vacant lots and an improved lot, and if he's got 1 tap, then he's paying everything. And then these people that bought a lot, either they're sitting on it to develop it later, or they're developing it now, or maybe they intended to develop, you know, that list you sent us out looked like some of them bought lots and intended to develop them and then did not. So in my mind then, I think you guys are correct in saying that they ought to be kicking in for the storm and the fire, but I also think the water base as part of the infrastructure of the town should also be something that those people contribute to. The only other comment I would make would be on the refuse and leaf. When we say optional, who determines, I guess, if I've got a vacant lot and I'm raking leaves to the curb, how do we police that, or how do we, I don't know how we're gonna make that work, if it's optional.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. There's not that many lots that we're asking to get, you know, to remove these services, but the leaves, that's something that you guys have to, I'm just here for the
well,
water.
I just to help Greg with this, before Lynn retires, the one that's leaving in the water department, one of her assignments is to work on all the vacant lots. And I know Dr. LeMay has voiced his opinion about, you know, I could be living next to somebody that had 3 vacant lots and they choose not to have leaf removal, but then the town, Tom and those are picking it up. So we need a chance to look at that, but the 7 that we're talking about now, we feel that's the right thing to do.
Right, yeah. And as far
And
as
Lynn will have
John's,
that done before she leaves.
to answer John's question, we can get those fees back in the rear for a vacant lot that has.
Yeah, but that's a lot of bookkeeping. Greg.
Well, but it's
I mean,
pretty simple, though.
If a guy holds on to a vacant lot for 3 years and then he puts a house on it, are we reaching back to the 3? Are we going, that's gonna be pretty complicated.
Well, it would just, not really, because
Tell them about,
we know the lots.
Yes.
They're in our system, they're in Civic, they're in our GIS mapping, they're inventoried. If somebody were to do any kind of major work in the area, we know to locate that specific stub if there's one there. It's not costing us anything, it's already infrastructure that's already been paid for in the ground. So if somebody were to decide to hook back into that, we can just do a reconnection fee. We're gonna know that that's been disconnected if they weren't paying it. It's gonna have an account, we look at that account.
Yeah, I don't have any problem at all with not billing them for water service. I think this is just me, we can decide as a group. We have to make up an ordinance anyway, so that's gonna be a little bit of time to work on it. We don't need to belabor it tonight. Those are just my opinions. I think the optional is gonna be a problem. I think storm and fire is a great idea. I think they ought to be contributing for the water base, and that's all I'll say on it. And then we'll just have to get that ordinance in pretty quick.
I think this came to one other reason. We had a lady on Lakeshore Drive that bought a lot, and supposedly she had a tap, and so she was getting all these charges. So she said to Greg and Lynn, well, I want to use the water. She wanted to water flowers, and guess what? When they tore the house down, they took the tap. So technically, she probably shouldn't have been paying.
Right.
So we're just trying to be fair we will know what all the vacant lots are before Lynn leaves the water department, and then we'll figure out what we're,
accounts.
yeah, and they'll, because we have to set up accounts. But I would like to see this for at least the 7 lots to go forward, that we only charge them for the stormwater, the fire protection, and then I agree with Dr. Lemay, if they should probably have leaf removal. If they want refuse, they're gonna have to let us know.
Right.
So I could think of, I'm thinking out loud, that stop 31 with Shoreland Hills, they probably don't need leaf removal. I don't think there's any leaves down there. But other than that, so then they would pay this basic charge, and then they pay for, I think they do want the garbage.
Yeah, and then there's an existing tap there, because there was a house around that lot.
Yeah. And they're not using any
If they were
water.
to ever decide to put a shower, you know, or
Yeah.
something in, whatever, then that's when we just,
Yeah.
for the
Then we start.
But again, they should be paying for the infrastructure that everybody else paid for, I think.
Yeah.
Because they've got that available to that, whatever vacant lot is sitting there, they've got that infrastructure available. I think they should be picking up the part of the tab like everybody else. You know, it's not like we don't go around and say, because you only didn't put your cans out 4 months out of the year, you're not paying for refuse. We don't go around and say, if you only put out 2 55-gallon drums of leaves and the guy next to you puts out 3 truckloads, that you're gonna pay different than the other guy. So it's gonna get messy, I'm afraid.
Maybe with the leaves, I can see that may be an issue, but with the water, I don't think there's gonna be an issue with that.
Okay, so are we gonna try to put together an ordinance? Is that what I'm
I make a
hearing?
motion to draft an ordinance.
Okay. I hear a second.
Second.
Have any discussion?
Isn't there a bond that we're all paying on for the infrastructure on the water?
Yes.
And so those people are now paying on that bond, right? Who own the empty lots?
Correct, but not the people that we haven't identified, just vacant lots, because they don't even have accounts.
Right, but aren't their properties then worth more because there is water accessibility? If they were out in the country and they had to dig a well to get water to their lot, when they develop it, that lot's worth less. So that lot is now worth more because they have the option to use the water. Is that not correct?
Probably, but
Every lot in Long Beach has a right, it has availability to water.
Right, and so why shouldn't we all be paying for that?
well, Bob, and I think you were present at the meeting, and I probably was October with Carl Sender. And he came on and he gave us a broad overview of what goes on in the state of Indiana. And so that's how we came up with this.
Right. But
And
to
Carl's on right now too.
but to go back when they decide they want to develop that lot and then go have to figure out how long they've had benefit of having the opportunity to use water. I mean, that sounds like it'd be a difficult calculation, plus owners change. It seems to me the most fair thing is to have everybody pay monthly on that capital bond cost. I think we're trying to reinvent the wheel, making things more difficult. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think you're quite understanding how we're gonna do it, though. It's not, all we're doing.
Make sure you speak in.
All we're doing is just eliminating from somebody that's paying for something that they don't have. If there's no meter there, we shouldn't be charging for it. That'd be like if NIPSCO came in and did a big gas upgrade project in town. Every house got a new gas tap. Somebody's house burnt down, they no longer use the gas, NIPSCO's not gonna keep charging you for that tap. You know, it's just, to me, it's not ethical, but.
Right,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote?
yes,
I vote aye. Mary Lou?
aye.
I'd be opposed just to the objection I just made, for the reason I just stated.
John Wall?
I'm in favor of drafting an ordinance, but we're going to see it before we initiate any action, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right,
Johnstone, aye.
Okay, motion carries.
so we'll draft, Chris will work on an ordinance. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Anything?
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, we'll now get back to the agenda. Police Department, Commission, Town Administrator, Chief.
Good evening. For the month of January, the Long Beach Police Department responded to 212 calls for service when compared to 140 calls for service in the previous year, for an increase of 72 calls for service. During the month of January, 12 incident reports were documented. A total of 5 individuals were arrested, 2 felony arrests. One was reference a vehicle pursuit, and the second felony arrest was for that of felony drug possession, which was the individual was wanted on an outstanding warrant. 3 misdemeanor arrests related to traffic offenses. We also investigated 2 unfortunate death investigations that were ruled natural causes. Both of those occurred in the town of Michiana Shores. Overall, it was a steady month. I would also like to take a moment this evening to publicly thank our newly elected LaPorte County Prosecutor, Sean Fagan. Prosecutor Fagan had donated to the town of Long Beach $8,500 towards the purchase of a police drone to be used for investigations and search and rescue. We are now in possession of the drone. It arrived last week, and Prosecutor Fagan's office picked up the entire cost of the drone out of the infraction deferral program, which is a program where money from issued citations goes into the local prosecutor's fund, and therefore he used those funds to help us purchase the drone. I'd like to add with the drone, I've been asked by several people what are some of the primary purposes that we would use this drone for. Probably the most important to us would be lakefront safety, water safety. I spoke to the new chief at the Coast Guard station here in Michigan City. He shared with me that starting this summer, for the very first time, the Coast Guard branch here in Michigan City will have a designated helicopter assigned to the Michigan City shoreline for Lake Michigan due to the unfortunate number of fatal drowning deaths that we've experienced on Lake Michigan. So as a community, you're going to see more helicopters every weekend in the area, so please don't be alarmed. This past week, they had 3 Coast Guard helicopters that were out practicing the ice rescues from here to Burns Harbor. So I just want to share that with everyone as well, that we're going to see more helicopter activity over the summer. And obviously the drone for us will be a big benefit, searching over the waters and that we'd be able to put the drone up over the water. There was no police commission meeting for January. On the town administrator side, just wanted to touch on the community center painting project that was voted on last month. It passed. A big thank you to TMC Painting. They had completed the project today. Just to recap that, the council approved $3,800 towards that project. The Long Beach Civic, which I see some of its members here tonight, again, a big thank you to Long Beach Civic. They donated $2,800 to that. The Higdon family, the $1,000 donation from their July 4th run was the other $1,000. Unfortunately, though, I went a little bit over budget, and I do apologize. The total project was anticipated to be $3,800, and the final bill came in at $3,806. So I ran over by 6.
And you could
promise not to do that in the future.
You can throw that in though, right, Chief?
Yeah, I'll leave it on the table tonight. Exactly. Melanie Davis, who is on the committee, is with us tonight. I'd like to thank Melanie. I went over today to check on the finishing product of the painting project, and Melanie was vacuuming the community center. She went ahead and took some wood finish and refinished one of the large plaques before it was rehung on the wall. And it was just nice to see the entire committee, everybody from Joe, Larry, Doug, Melanie, Joy, everybody came together to help with this project. And it's just nice as a community to see our residents volunteering their time, no cost to the town, making the community center the focal point that it is for all of us to enjoy. And that is all that I have to report.
Thank you, Chief. Tom?
Thank you. The Long Beach Fire Department report for the month of January. We responded to 11 calls during the month of January, as opposed to 14 a year before. Interestingly, all 11 calls during the month of January were on the medical side. Our average response time to our medical calls is 4.5 minutes. We're averaging 5 people on each medical call. Our fire times remain at 4.4 minutes and an average of 8 members that show up on our fire calls. Really quickly, just a couple things. It was a very short season for our ice rink. You'll probably see the ice rink head out.
Let me know spring's coming.
I think people might have skated one weekend of the year this year. Unfortunately, the weather didn't work well for us. The deer are enjoying it, but so that will probably come down sometime during the month of March when it warms up a little bit more. Mark, you mentioned the drone. We're looking forward to training with you on the drone, especially for beach time, summer activities. You did mention ice, just a safety warning, just to make sure that people stay off the shelf ice. It is a hazard. We put signs up about being off the ice, but if you're walking down Lakeshore Drive and you see that it is an attractive nuisance, and we will be challenged to rescue people out on the shelf ice. So please tell your family and friends that are visiting here for the weekends, don't venture out on the shelf ice. The Long Beach Fire Department continues to train, during the winter months. This past month, we focused on CPR and use of our AEDs. We also spent another session going over elevator safety, which unfortunately we've had a number of elevator calls over the past few years. So this past month, we're spending more time on our self-contained breathing apparatuses, and tonight our team is being trained on scene size-up. Last point, our rescue truck that you all approved and we have in our possession is almost ready for service now. It's in the Chicago suburbs waiting for one more piece of equipment, which is a battery charger that will allow all of the radios and things to charge. Lights and sirens are all in. We expect that. I keep saying we expect it within a week or two. My expectation is that we'll be ready to take the Suburban and put that onto the market, Mark. So we will work with you on getting that out into the end of the bidding process. Fire Commission did meet, and I think, John, I'll pass over to you for Fire Commission.
Oh, Tom, I just want to thank the people that do the ice rink every year. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And they're very dedicated, but what I like, as soon as they put it up, the weather gets better.
The weather got better, but it's interesting when you see the deer that occasionally will go into it.
Yeah.
It's not.
But I mean, they're out there cleaning it off. And
Yeah, no, it's a good group of people that are dedicated to helping. It's
Yes.
fire department folks. We enjoy doing it. I believe the town purchased the layer on there, so
yeah, it's wonderful.
but, we just need Mother Nature to cooperate.
John?
Fire Commission met earlier in the month. We had basically three subject matters. One was the Public Works building, and I know it's on the agenda for later on. In fact, Carl Sender's here. We may want to move that up in favor of getting him on his way if we want to have a discussion about some of the items related to that. I've got three items on that. We can
let Carl go.
We can talk about it in a couple of minutes if you want, or if you want to wait till a little bit later, however you want to do it. And then we also talked about the fire truck financing. We have a proposal from Horizon Bank for a loan for that fire truck purchase. And Bill DeFuniak had a person or a company that they used before. Mark's been in touch with him, and he and I have not touched base recently, but I think that guy's going to come up with a quote as well. So we'll have a couple of quotes for financing on the truck, which again, we don't have to pay for until delivery, which is, at this point, it's probably 18 months or so away. So, but we just wanted to keep the ball rolling on the financing so everybody's aware. We mentioned the R3 progress that Tom brought up to your attention as well. Public Works building, I'm sorry. There are a couple things that I'd like to at least get some input on Carl before he leaves, and then we have some things that as the council we have to address relative to the public safety building. One is the contract. We have that, I think you guys got that in hand a couple days ago from Chris. That's actually needs a couple of very small language tweaks in it, but essentially, for the most part, we negotiated that with Holiday, and it's pretty much ready to roll.
Is that on the last page, John?
Yeah, Mary Lou, we don't have to do this. I was just thinking with Carl.
But I mean, that's the agenda on the last page.
Well, we can wait if you want Carl to hang around. I don't care.
No, I'm fine with that.
I mean, he'd probably be willing to. I see him shaking his head. But and then the second thing was the lease agreement. I think Chris again sent that to everybody a couple days back. We just need to talk about that and decide what our action plan is for that. And then the building corporation itself. With John Coker and I have had some discussions about a few individuals that have been willing to serve on that building corporation. Chris assures us that that's a relatively quick thing to happen. So that's nothing we need to spend a lot of time on tonight, unless somebody else has a person they'd like to put forward to serve on that. So let's tackle the easy one first. Building Corporation, John, you've got two people. I've got Mr. Goslin, Ed Goslin. I spoke to him about a drainage issue down on Lakeshore. He's willing to serve.
Right. We've got Dan Moon and Corey Solar. we'll serve.
So we have 3 individuals, that's all we need, I believe, and so we're ready to roll on the building corporation. I think that's all we need to talk about on that, unless somebody has some questions on that. Let's go to the lease agreement. That document's a little unwieldy in terms of understanding. If you, Chris, is there the cliff notes on that?
For tonight's purposes, first you need to make sure you add, I didn't see it on the agenda, but I think that proposed lease tonight, what's being asked is your consideration as to the form, not the substance of the lease. There's a procedure here with regard to moving forward with the building corporation and some of the things that bond counsel has to do. So there is a timeline. Tonight, you're being asked to approve the lease as to form only, not signing it. The parties aren't there. The terms, as you know, in terms of dollar amounts, those things wouldn't be set. You'd be approving the form and then approving a resolution that allows us to then, which is required, to have a public hearing with regard to the lease and the substance of it. So that's all that's being asked of you tonight. Nothing as to the substance and locking the town or the building corporation that has yet to be set up.
Okay.
So that's the lease agreement. And then the contract, I know there's been some discussion off campus about the dollar amount on the contract. I think the contract itself, I hope everybody got it. So I just want to call your attention to a couple things. Apparently there's a little bit of discrepancy about what we talked about in terms of the contract amount as opposed to the overall cost of the project, including financing costs. If you recall back on 12/7, you know, I gave thumb drives to everybody on the council. They were down here at the council chambers, and I think everybody, I'm assuming, picked them up and took a look. That quote from the contractor for 2.3 something was in that information. So also on the presentation that we made on the 27th, we talked about a 30% cost estimate. In fact, one of the slides actually had that up there, 30% cost estimate of 2.5. Then the contract itself that we've been busy negotiating, which is basically based on Holiday's quote, which was the chosen design build contractor when we went through this whole design build concept. That 2.5 is in that contract as the contract not to exceed. So my understanding all along was that the 2.5 was the construction cost. There seems to be some disagreement about that. So that's my presentation to date. I would love it if we okayed, as Chris said, the form, maybe not the substance of the contract, the lease agreement, and then move forward on the building corporation. So those are my 3 things, and I'll just sit back and listen to whatever everybody needs to say.
Any comments from anyone?
I believe that the amount that we approved was inclusive of everything that would go into that project, not just construction costs. That was my impression.
And it's my understanding that the 2.5 is the ceiling, and that as the project goes, as I understand it, this will be subbed out to a lot of different vendors, and at that point, conceivably, the cost could be less than that if there's enough competitive bids on, like, say, the drywall or the...
Sorry, Jeff.
Or the, right. But that's my understanding. Am I reading that right, Chris, or not?
I think your understanding of what the deal is, you guys have to come to agreement on what the number. And I just want to make one quick comment before you get in further discussion. I have had an opportunity to review the form of contract proposed by Holiday. It's generally acceptable as to substance. It's an AIA contract. Most of that language is pretty standard. I went over it at length with John Wall, and there are some things that we need to change. Definitely, initially, there's references to architects in there, and we need to change that to make sure that it's the owner or the town. But otherwise, as to substance, the only glaring detail that I would say that needs to be approved, hashed out, is what that number is. And right now it reads 2.5 million, and there's a discrepancy as to what the understanding of that. But overall, I can work out the changes and the things that I need to with Holiday that I don't believe are material. There's no reason or to believe that they would object, because again, they're definitions. So that dollar amount is is the crux of, you know, moving forward. The crux of the decision you need to make addresses that issue.
I'm having a hard time understanding why we think that a 2.5 construction cost that was the, you know, basically the quote from the contractor needs now to be discounted by the cost of the money. I mean, it's a little bit like buying a car. You go in and you negotiate a price for a car all the time, realizing that, you know, you're going to have finance costs and you're going to have costs above the quote of the car. It's a little bit like buying a house as far as that goes. You've got closing costs and you've got finance costs. I don't understand how we went from, you know, all the written documentation to date had 2.5 as construction costs, and now all of a sudden we think that the financing costs need to come out of that number. I don't understand how we got.
Mr. Coker, it might be helpful to have Carl explain those additional numbers for financing so that everybody
then we can
have the same information.
If there's no objection, good evening, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to give you an update tonight. The costs that we have estimated right now, there's $135,000 would be for the cost of the issuance, not including the underwriter's discount, which I've estimated at about 1.2%, or it's about $35,000. So right there, you're at about $170,000. And then we cannot start a levy in 2023 because our budget's already approved. Well, the capitalized interest is $93,000, but I think the Finance and Budget Committee, as we were working on the 5-year capital plan, we had earmarked that some of the interest until the general obligation bonds was going to be paid off at the end of 2026. We put that into the into the capital plan. So in essence, it would probably be paid, this $93,000 through January of 2024 would be covered probably from the local option income tax, public safety money. The only other thing that I had suggested is that typically on these capital type improvement projects, you probably should have some contingency that's outside of what the contract is, because there's going to be probably things that come up that were not anticipated in the base contract. And that's whether you're doing a building project, a water or sewer project, there's always items in there. I had suggested that possibly the council would consider a $200,000 contingency, but obviously that's going to be up to all of you as to what's a reasonable contingency number. The $200,000 is about 8% of the 2.5. So that's not too uncommon to have, you know, a 10% contingency before you even receive bids on them for everything. So that's my thought. You know, right now I would total those costs. We'd have a bond amount would be, if you include the $200,000 of contingency plus all the bond issuance, would be $2,875,000. I was going to just round it up to 2.9, but certainly I'll defer to all of you as to what you feel you would want the bond amount, the maximum amount to be. And obviously, you know, we're going to do interest only between now and end of 2026 when our current general obligation bonds are paid off. And the hope is a lot of that could be paid out of the public safety tax. But again, your committee the Budget Finance Committee will need to make final decisions on that. So the tax rate, if you're interested, with a 20-year, if you go with a 20-year financing, I think the maximum lease rental payments would be about $267,000. It would be about, the tax rate in 27 with the current AVs would be about 0.0475, and your current rate today is 0.0375. So it's about a penny more per 100. It could even be less than that if you factor in normal assessed value growth over the next several years. So I've given quite a bit of information. I'm happy to go back and review anything, or if you have additional questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add a couple things. On Carl's point, speaking about the contingencies and having those funds set aside for the new structure, a couple of things since the project was approved that may not have been included in the initial build and design is the security system of the building, the internal infrastructure, security cameras within the building, card readers, talking about automation technology similar to what we have here at the town hall that we added 2 years ago, where we now have a key fob system which is automated. So as somebody enters the building, we know by date and time and the employee that enters the facility. I have some concerns for the training room in there. I'd like to see us make sure we have the technology in there, the audio, the video, also the information technology, all the IT needs that we have. As you see in this room, we kind of struggle with the microphone system that we have in here. The acoustics in this room are very poor because of the ceiling height. And then also, you know, we struggle with the owl sometime in that, where I see in this new facility, we could have a dedicated camera system, microphone system that could assist us. I just know some of those will come at a cost. We are working on getting prices, quotes for those items. So I just wanted to bring to the council's attention that there are a few things that we are working on getting pricing that obviously contingency funds would assist us. This, in my personal opinion, having built a public safety facility in the past, this is a once in a 50 to 75 year project. We won't be, you know, crossing this again for some time, at least in my lifetime. And I think it's important that we don't cut. I believe in cutting some corners, but be careful not to cut too many corners, because I would hate to see us build a facility that is just a parking facility for fire department trucks and nothing other than that. So I just wanted to add that as you consider some of these things this evening.
Well, those items that you just talked about, is that in addition to what was on that thumb drive that we've all received?
I don't know if some were on there. John Wall maybe could add. I know some of them have come up since the project has started. Some may have, so.
Mike made a point at one point, you know, that spreadsheet that we got from Holiday when we did the original design build concept, we gave them criteria. You know, we didn't get down in the weeds. We gave them criteria for basically what we needed. They came back with proposals in the phase one, as did the other contractor. We massaged that a little bit at that point. Then they came back with the final phase two proposals, which was based on those discussions. But we can take that line item, and we know, just to your point, John, we have line items for most of the major things. So we have the ability to do what Mike suggested, which is, okay, if we know we want to increase the AV/security equipment by X number of dollars, we'll be able to analyze that before we make that decision. So we have that capability, we have that level of detail. On the other hand, it was a 30% drawing concept at that point, so we were massaging things. So for instance, I think we've made you aware at the Fire Commission, but I will make everybody aware, you know, we found that we can make use of the electric system in this building so that we don't have to get new switchgear, so that'll decrease the electrical costs right off the bat from that 30% estimate. Our hope is that we can use the existing sanitary system, which will help that as well. We found out that, so we had as alternates, which is partly why we went to 2.5 instead of that 2.3 on that original quote. We did not have a sprinkler system, but we kind of feel like, you know, we should have that as far as a marketing thing and, you know, safety and all, and that will actually reduce some of the costs because they'll be able to use cheaper materials because we have sprinkler. But then, for instance, the exhaust system, we had plugged in, Tom, what would it be? I think we had 100,000 plugged in for the exhaust system, and right now it's looking like it's going to come in at about 45. So we're actively trying to reduce costs as we march through this.
Well, that was my question, is you know, as those different items go through, you know, are we still going to have an opportunity to to see if that's the best price, or is some of that still negotiated even after the contracts are signed?
Well, the way this contract is written, they have to provide us what's called a master estimate on a periodic basis, and that'll do exactly what we're talking about. It's going to be anything that we adjust will come out of those numbers or add to those numbers. So we start off with that estimate that we got, and then we're going to alter that every time we make a change. So yeah, we will get, but we don't, the reason we went with design build, I don't want to be in a position of picking and choosing electricians, for instance, or picking and choosing, you know, how they're going to do the building, building the building. I don't want to pick their iron worker that's going to erect their building. That's up to them. So we have the ability to veto subs, and they will provide who they're going to use. And if we have a problem with one of their subs, we can veto the subs. That's the way the contract reads. Generally, though, we won't be involved in the negotiation for those prices. But every time they change something, they're required to show us detailed costs. So if their subcontract for electric, for instance, on that line item was whatever it was, I can't remember, but if they hire somebody for less than that, that cost savings comes to the town.
Right, that was my big question.
Yeah, that's the way the contract is written. And that was the design build concept all along, was that we'd have that ability. So we wouldn't be, number one, having to manage each one of those people, but we'd get the benefit of their expertise and be able to see all the numbers. So I think the concept's correct. I disagree with Mike's definition of the cost structure, but we need to hammer that out.
Yeah, my thought is this: on 12/7 we had a special meeting where the attendees were overwhelmingly in favor of this fire station. I believe 2.5 million was the construction cost. Now we want to change the rules and include finance costs. I don't think that's what we decided at that meeting. I think if this does not happen, and the town desperately needs this fire station, and I have to wonder what we're going to do if the fire department decides they've had enough of the town not fulfilling our contract as far as providing them with the equipment and the buildings that they need to do their job. I think to put the kibosh on this at this point would be a real self-inflicted wound by this town council. I further think that voters next election need to remember who voted against this, who put the kibosh on this fire station, which we desperately need, and was so strongly supported at this last meeting. I'm not sure how long we think we're going to go with that fire station, because we don't have a lot of other options. We could put a new roof on that old building, but that'd be like putting lipstick on a pig. It's not going to do the job, certainly not for any length of time. So my feeling is we need to go forward with this project, and we need to stick with the 2.5 million in construction cost limit. I'm done.
Does anybody have any questions for Carl, or can we cut him? Go ahead.
Carl, on your original analysis where you did the debt servicing, what did you have down for construction costs at that, excluding interest?
Let me look real quick here. I think we had a total of just 2.5 million at that time. I'm not sure if it was specified to me exactly if that was all inclusive or not, but I used a 2.5 for the purpose of the December 27th meeting. And then at that meeting, I think it was also suggested, or maybe shortly thereafter, that we, instead of doing a general obligation bond, we do the form of the building corporation and finance it through that way. And that takes some additional steps and some additional work, and that incurs some additional costs to go that route. Not a substantial amount, but does incur some.
All right, so now if you factor in the cost of leveraging this particular project, how long would it take you to do that and give us feedback on the debt servicing?
What the debt service would be on the amount that I suggested at the 2.875 number?
Correct.
I have numbers that I have available now.
I think that's the 257 max payment, Mike.
right? I'm just,
Carl, is that that when you, a little bit ago, you mentioned the 20-year financing at that 0.0475 interest rate, and I believe you said that the maximum payment during the term of the loan would be $257,000 as a maximum.
67,000 if it's a 20-year. I also ran it at a 16-year, and that would be at 321,000. For purposes of, we're going to need to set a public hearing on the lease amount, as Chris has mentioned. And I think one of the suggestions, and I'll leave it to Mr. Coker and Chris as to when you want to set a special meeting, but we were suggesting February 28th by bond counsel, so we could get the notice in the paper and you'd have a public hearing on that maximum amount. I was going to advertise under the 16-year, the higher amount. Again, we're going to, once the bonds are sold, if you tell us at that point you want to do a 16-year or 20-year, we have the opportunity to reduce the lease rental payment to whatever the bonds are actually sold at whatever term that all of you want to make. It's just we have to go through the public hearing process, and we didn't want to delay too much, but we do have time before the bonds are sold to make those final decisions. In purposes of advertising, I'd probably advertise at the higher amount, but at your meeting on the 28th, we can, if you want to do the 20-year, then it would be the maximum of $267,000.
I would like to point out one thing relative to affordability. That 267, we've been blessed with that local option tax. Oddly enough, it's almost exactly that number. So we've got $270,000 coming in for public safety. We've already dedicated 70 of that roughly to the police department increases that we gave them for salaries this year. So I'm not trying to be facetious here, but we do have a gift there that the county gave us. So essentially, if you took the police 70 and put 30 on that and took 100 out of it, you got 167 there that we just didn't even know we were ever going to have. And then the other thing I'd point out that is once those GO bonds, I believe the GO bonds are costing us somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 plus every year. So that's why I think it's not out of the, we're essentially not going to have any tax impact at that point because we'd retire the GO bonds and make use of that LOT, and really we're not, I think in terms of affordability, it's reachable. So I think for us to spend a lot of time arguing whether the construction costs or whether we had a definitional problem or a misunderstanding about the 2.5, we're going to be very aggressive on costs, believe me. And again, anybody's welcome to come to our progress meetings and we can keep you guys as much or as little involved as you'd like in these decisions.
Thank you. Anything else for Carl?
I don't have anything else.
Carl?
I'll just point out that is exactly right. We're wrapping the debt service around so that we don't do the principal amortization until 2027 after the GO bonds are paid off. Yes, we'll have interest in 24, 25, and 26. A substantial portion, if not all of it, could be paid out of the local option income tax, the public safety. And if the council chooses, you could probably even use more of it to have a lower levy if you wanted to. So you have options, but in essence, we're trying to keep the tax rate impact as low as possible and utilize the GO bonds being fully paid off in 26 before we do the full principal and interest on these bonds.
One other thought would be, those water bonds are going to be paid down somewhere around 26 or 27 as well. So there'll be some relief for the taxpayers in terms of that water capital charge we were talking about earlier in the evening as well. So really, in terms of long-term affordability, I think we're there. But
if nothing else for Carl, you're free to go. Turn off the clock. Turn off the clock. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay. Do we want to do anything further on?
I would like to be able to tell Holiday that we're going to be able to finish signing that contract. So with the little bit of language adjustments we have, if we keep the 2.5 in there, then I can do that, or, we can do that, if you guys are okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
Are you?
I think for tonight,
We're just approving
you approve the form of the lease and the resolution if you're inclined, which then authorizes me to publish notice of the public hearing on the lease. And then between that time, you could authorize me, John, and myself to work with Halliday to get you a final form of contract for signature. Then you could execute that on the 28th. At that 28th, assuming that works for everybody, that is the timeline that it doesn't have to be that day, but if it works for everybody, I have to have at least 10 days notice for a public hearing.
That's fine. Yes, we can.
Okay, do you need a motion?
To approve the form of lease and the resolution, and as well as authorizing us to finalize negotiations with Halliday to give you a final form of contract for consideration at the 28th meeting.
And then the assumption is, or the caveat is that the 2.5 is the construction cost in that contract, the way do we understand each other?
That's it, yeah.
Are we good? Okay. So I guess, is that Harry motion that he just made is what I'm proposing?
All right, so heard the motion, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I have any more discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Bob Lemay?
Yes.
Mary Lou?
Yes.
Coker, yes?
John Wall, yes.
John Stone, yes.
And then the only other thing is setting a special meeting if that works for the 28th. I don't know what day that falls on. That was suggested by bond counsel.
It's be a Tuesday.
So 28th, that,
28th for a special meeting?
February,
yes.
it's a Tuesday.
I'll be out of town, but I can zoom in.
Just have to make sure you have a majority that are present.
What time?
7 o'clock, it's up to you, whatever works. Could be earlier, could be later, it could be 5 a.m. for me. It's up to you.
Oh, thanks.
I'm supposed to babysit that day, but I'll bet my wife will do it for me.
So what are you thinking time-wise? Do you guys
7?
I'm okay, whatever you guys want to do.
I didn't hear the time you suggested.
No, I didn't suggest. I'm just asking you guys what.
7 o'clock?
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just
On the 28th?
imperative that you have a majority that are present in person.
Yeah, so who's going to be here?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
John, are you going to be here in person?
I'll be here and I'll put it on Zoom.
Bob, okay, so that's 1, 2, 3.
But is that a
If
public?
you and I are on Zoom, it won't work out?
Okay.
You only need 3 here in person.
We're here.
And that sounds like we will have that. Okay.
I may or may not be.
Well, you and I might be. I know what it is. Okay.
As long as we got 3 here. Okay. You go back to the agenda now?
Public Works.
Public Works, Mary Lou?
That's me. We met in January, and Greg's already presented what we talked about. We meet again, we always meet on the 4th Monday, so we meet on February 27th at 9 o'clock here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joy, Park Board and Community Center? You're on Zoom?
So I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, Park Board met on January 24th. Most of our Park Board projects are on hold until we can determine our funding. I'm still waiting to meet with Helen after she finishes with 2022 to determine our funding options. We are moving forward with the help from the Beach Garden Club to have a landscape architect draw up a plan for a new memorial brick walk to be added to the existing memorial garden in the park across from Town Hall. We'll be switching our irrigation service provider from Down to Earth to Servicescape, just so we can be consistent with the town. That's who the town uses. The Park Board has accepted a bid for flooring in room 14 at the community center from RES Repairs for a total cost of $5,320, hoping that they can begin putting that floor in next week. And we will be starting discussions on encroachment at the stops at our next meeting, which will be February 28th at 6 p.m. at Town Hall.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Any questions of Joy on the park board? Okay, community center.
Community Center met on February 6th. Amy Shin has moved into room 2 with Amy Barbershop and Boot Camp. She signed a lease from February 1st through December 31st. We have some outstanding plumbing issues that Larry Brown is working on with Poston Plumbing. Heat pump went out in the Y and it has been replaced. The Y has implemented a fob system so members can access the facility during off hours. It seems to be pretty popular according to Lori from the Y. They do put up barricades so members know that they're not to roam the building. It seems to be working well so far. As the chief mentioned earlier, the halls have been painted, so a big thank you to everyone involved in that. And we did discuss emergency exit signs, which I believe the chief is going to discuss later. I see it on the agenda.
Any questions on the community center? Okay, budget and finance. Tim?
Good evening. Budget and Finance met on January 25th, and we had a bit of an abbreviated meeting as the year 2022 was not closed out already, so we didn't have much to talk about regarding year-end financial reports. We will be meeting February 15th on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. So we'll address those closeout numbers from 2022. We talked about the Lakeshore Drive Sewer Project and the necessity to budget for a potential expense of $500,000 plus to the town. We talked about 2022 and 2023 CCMG applications. We looked at our capital plan briefly. We looked at public works accounting. There was discussion about combining the town's bank accounts with the water's bank accounts, and there's some benefits in doing that, which I think we all agreed to, but felt like we would probably require a vote in order to proceed with that. So I'll come back and ask for a motion on that. We looked at Stop 29 shoreline protection work. Woodruff invoicing is still not in yet. We're tracking that down. Talked about Lakeshore Drive water improvement project, approximately $900,000 bid process and schedule. We discussed fire truck financing, which I think John alluded to earlier. We looked at Stop 1718 drainage preliminary engineering estimates. That, I think, I know we're super early in that discussion, but as a resident, somebody who lives at Stop 18, I would like to hear some more about that project, either tonight or in the near future. We talked about our 2023 budgeting process, hopefully making it a little smoother than it was in 2022. Again, it was the first go around for most of us in 2022 to do a budget for a town. So hopefully 2023 is a little more streamlined. And we looked at the fact we just got our lit first payment. We talked about the park board funding or lack thereof, which we're trying to rectify, as Joy alluded to. And that was it. So I guess I am regarding the combining water and town accounts. The benefits in doing that would be we would have one large account with obviously more money than separate accounts have, and we would benefit from the current interest rate environment and make some revenue on our money that sits at Horizon Bank currently. And the estimate based on today's interest rates and their CD rates is around $50,000 to $80,000 a year in additional revenue. So that is appealing. It would be easier to reconcile our finances or our checking by using just one or by having one checking account. And we have had some software problems where if water runs checks and town runs checks in a similar time frame, I don't know if it has to happen simultaneously, but if Helen, for example, runs checks and Lynn runs checks, the whole thing blows up and we have to call Civic and reprogram a bunch of stuff. So we hope that we would resolve some software issues. We hope we would receive, or we know we would receive, some interest revenue on the money that sits in the bank, and it would be easier to reconcile our funds. So I would entertain a motion to combine water and town, if that's appropriate.
Tim, I find an issue with the water and the town running checks. I ran those for 7 months with Bill. It's called communication. When you run checks, you have to run them and then close out the account and run the general ledger. Your side doesn't do it. So when the water side comes in, if they don't know that you haven't finished, that's when you get the problem. Our side has voided one check in the last 3 years. Your side has voided many. So I don't think it's a glitch in the system, and I'm nervous about combining those things.
Well, there's really no your side and our side. We're all in the same town.
We are, but you called it water and town, so I'm just saying.
Because it currently is.
What are we earning right now on our money?
Almost nothing.
And we got what, several $1 million to the bank just sitting there?
We do.
And we could make 40 to 80,000 in interest.
Yep. And one more thing, just to respond to Mary Lou's comment. We've had Bill in a couple times in the last month, and Bill has, I think, I don't want to put words in Bill's mouth, but Bill has seen the challenges with having the two accounts, and I believe supports combining them. We also went through a pretty substantial upgrade to our Civic software over the summer, and we think possibly that upgrade created some of the issues. We are in the process of hopefully getting Civic to allow us, getting the town and Civic to allow us to operate on the cloud, and that would alleviate some of these problems, probably. But certainly combining the two would for sure alleviate them, because we wouldn't have two competing systems. It's sort of like having two businesses running off the same computer system.
Well, I would like to have more time to look into it before I would table it.
The whole point for my request for a vote. So I would entertain a motion for that, to combine the two, but certainly up to you guys.
And so let me just ask you something. If there's that much money out there right now, why aren't we putting it in a CD?
Well, we've talked about it, but when it's separate dollar amounts, we can do a little bit better on the return if we combine them. Now, that doesn't mean we can't achieve.
We could segregate some of the one side.
We can. It'll just be less. And Horizon's proposal was, hey, why don't you guys just put it all together? You'll make a lot more money. It'll be easier. And from that, we thought it would be advantageous.
The only other comment I would make, and we've had some conversations in the budget and finance meetings as well, to give you a little more confidence, Mary Lou, the accounts will still be water accounts and they'll be town accounts just like they are now. The only thing we're talking about is cash management here. We're just talking about putting the cash in one big box.
I'm okay with that, but I'm nervous because we have so many problems right now with the checks and payments and things, and I would just like to have time to look at it before we do anything.
I just have one question for you, Tim. Has Horizon Bank brought up the product called zero balance accounting?
Yes,
they have.
Yeah.
If we go to a zero balance accounting system, Mary Lou, we can separate the actual check writing, so the control can still be in place. The money flows to a control account. So are we seriously considering a ZBA?
We are, and in fact, we have a conference call with him tomorrow with Dr. Lemay and myself. If you or Mary Lou or both of you.
What time is that?
10 a.m.
Careful now, you can't have three of us.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's right.
I can't be there, but if you, Mike, since you have that banking background.
Yeah, I'd be happy to attend. I'm good till 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll chime in at 10 a.m.
I would like to get our arms around the problems we are facing now, Tim, with, before you move anything. I don't have a problem with any of that, but if there's money out there with CDs, let's move it. And, we can do that.
But I think we can accomplish both those things.
Okay.
Your concerns as well as consolidating the dollars for maximum investment. I think we can get that done.
Okay, well, that's all I have, and we will.
Well, do we need a motion to do something, or are we gonna look at it some more, or gonna?
I would like to table it till next month, and I,
Make a motion.
Let's see. I don't know, it seems to me that it's not necessarily the council's, that we need to make a motion. I mean, Mike, you're the finance guru. If the most efficient way of organizing the accounting is something that Tim's proposing, you're agreeing to, and Mary Lou gets a comfort level, why would we not do that? And do we even have to have a motion relative to that by the council?
I think the ordinance that you guys passed, I believe last year, that put the water department under the purview and supervision of the town council, doesn't necessitate that you need to do anything other than, the communication and general agreement between the two of you. So as long as it meets the requirements of State Board of Accounts, I don't see any objection other than, honoring Mary Lou's request.
Conference call. So I guess we don't need a motion, and we're just gonna, Mary Lou's gonna, or Mike's gonna get with, I'm sorry. So it sounds like you're gonna get with Tim in the bank, and Dr. Lemay and you and Tim with the bank, and I don't think we need a motion, and Mary Lou, it sounds to me like if those individuals are in agreement, and certainly, we'll keep everybody in the loop. I'd like to know, you'd like to know, and I'm sure by the 15th, it sounds like if you're gonna meet tomorrow, you guys would have some information for us at the 15th Budget and Finance meeting. So hopefully, Mary Lou, if you're able to make that one, or if not, we can get you on Zoom, or we can report back.
what day is it?
Well, the Budget and Finance is set for Wednesday. Remember we had,
I'll be here.
Are you gonna be around? Okay, good. So maybe we'll have
Because we have a
that.
Zoom meeting at 1, don't we?
Yes.
I don't know if it's Zoom, but I mean, we're having a meeting.
Oh, we have an executive meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we got that solved. Tree board?
No,
Oh,
you forgot me.
I-
Human resource.
Human resources, sorry, Mayor.
That's all right. So we met on February 9th, and we had been looking at employee performance appraisals, and Mark and I both came up with a performance appraisal, and he shared it with all the employees and asked them for any suggestions or constructive comments. And so we're going to implement that in February, and then following year it'll be January. So we will sit down. It's a very simple form. I think the employees will like it. That tells them what we expect of them. They'll tell us, what they could be doing better in their job, or if they need additional training. I think last month I talked about we put a ad out to replace Lynn in the water department, and so far we've had 9 hits on our announcement, and we've had 2 interviews with 2 different people, and then we had a second interview with a young lady. And so Dr. Lemay had suggested if only 2 council people want to talk to her, he would like to. And since he's remote, we could do it Zoom. So I was thinking sometime this week before he travels again, I could get her set up. And just to give you a little bit on her background, she wants only part-time. She's has 3 children. She has her she has her Bachelor of Science in Accounting. She has her MBA. Her last job, she worked 12 years at Save the Dunes. She knows all the buzzwords in accounting, bank recs, general ledger. It's very exciting. So she could probably step right in and fill Lynn's shoes. So Tim, because she reports to Tim, the first interview, it was Laurel, Lynn, and I. And then the second interview, we had Tim, myself, and Lynn, and then the chief. And so we are looking to offer her, if it goes okay with the interview, we're getting her background check. We would offer her $19.95 an hour.
Okay, that's your recommendation, that we hire subject to,
Yes, to Bob's, and if only two of you interview, I will come in to set it up if I can, but then I don't have to set up a meeting in the paper.
yeah, that's fine. I think you've done a lot of background on it,
Yes.
and she sounds,
We would be really excited.
she's certainly qualified, so.
Yeah, and Lynn is not abandoning us. Vicky's got spring break, and Lynn will come back in and help.
Just,
Mary Lou, who's interviewed so far?
Just you so far, and that
No,
way.
I haven't interviewed her yet. Who has interviewed her so far?
Who has, okay, Laurel, Lynn and I interviewed her like 2 weeks ago. And then last week it was Greg, Tim, the chief, myself again, and then Lynn came in.
I'm not sure I'll have a whole lot to add to that. You know, if my interviewing her is holding up the process, I'm willing to step aside and get this sprint thing going.
Good.
Yeah, make an offer to her.
All right.
Dr. Lemay, just to add in review of the salary ordinance in reference to the recommendation, the salary ordinance has a range of $16 to $23 per hour. Our current secretaries on the low side are $19 an hour to $19.95, and then our most senior secretary is $22.65. So the recommendation for $19.95 is within the ordinance that was approved last year in December.
Motion to go ahead and hire.
I second it.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any other discussion? I vote aye. Doctor? Aye. Mary Lou?
Aye.
John Wall, aye. Mike?
Aye.
Okay. Welcome aboard. Okay, now we can have the
Now,
tree board.
Ellen, yes. And just before Ellen starts, she dropped off at my house an ordinance for the tree board. And so I told her that we like to have, you guys like to have time to review it. So I will get it scanned and sent out to everybody. Okay, go ahead.
Turn on your volume.
You have to unmute yourself.
Looks like she's already unmuted. She has to turn on her microphone at home if she can hear.
Turn on your...
Ellen, can you turn on your microphone? I can text her.
No, I can't hear you.
Ellen, if you can hear us, you probably don't have your microphone turned on at home. You're not muted right now, but you may have to look on your computer under settings and try to find your microphone and turn it on.
Try to turn on your microphone. Oh. Okay.
You want me to do my thing and while we try and get a hold of Ellen?
Sure.
All right, so if it's okay, I'll do the building commission, John, is that all right?
Go ahead.
All right.
Make your reports.
Building commission met on 2/10. We were gonna have a special meeting of the building commission on 2/22 at 1 p.m. to discuss stairs, also to further discuss the fines for people who build without permits and contractors who work without registration, just to try to clarify that a little bit. We discussed the iWork Q software, which is basically this new computerized system to do building permits, registrations, and all that. I think a PowerPoint presentation is going to go out to everybody on the town council about that, and then it'll hopefully get discussed in the fairly near future by the town council. So far, the building commission has all looked at it, and they're basically in favor of it. Now regarding specific permits, 2023 Melrose, there was concern about repair of a deck that was not on their property. However, further survey has shown that indeed it is on their property. And so that's going to be able to be approved. 2805 Oriole Trail had a solar panels they wanted to put on the roof. That had originally been approved, and then it was discovered that neither the contractor was registered nor had the fee been paid, so that permit has been rescinded. 2311 Hazeltine, that had been a permit that was approved. However, with looking at it in terms of inspection, more work was going on than what was on the permit. They had paid too low a fee. There was no permit for a 3-season room they wanted to put in. There was work going on above the garage. Therefore, and also they were supposed to give us a plan from the architect, none of which we'd received. Therefore, a stop work order was ordered. 1612 Indianapolis, basically we decided we needed a consolidated permit request. This is a project that's been going on, frankly, a lot of it not permitted for at least a couple of years. And so we need to start getting rid of this problem. We're going to get that consolidated permit and hopefully start some negotiation with the owner. Let him know what he can do, what he can't do. And finally, 2400 Shorewood was approved. $1,000 fine was issued to the contractor, $500 to the homeowner, working without permit and without registration. And again, we're going to talk about that more at that special meeting. And that was it for the building commissioner.
Okay, now BZA.
BZA met on 110. We discussed the project, or the request at 2211 Oakenwald, and that was set for a public hearing. And finally, the APC met on 116. Basically, we decided on an address for the public safety building. That'll be 2400 Town Court Road. And then we advised a couple who wanted to split their lot as to what they could do and what they couldn't do. And of course, we haven't had any requests from them. They wanted to take that home, digest it, and come back to us as to what their plan is. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Do we get,
You want me to come? She says she has an Apple. You want me to just call her? Is that okay?
Yeah, if you just put your phone by the microphone, that would work, if she's able to do that. Sounds like she can't get her microphone. She needs a technical thing.
You're going to help me.
Befuddled like I am on these things. I mean.
Is that good? That way? She might have her phone turned off.
Hi, this is Ellen. I'm not available right now.
Can you tell her to?
Oh.
Ellen, if you can hear us,
I told her to call me.
why don't you just call on your cell phone and then we'll be able to hear you.
I think if we could read her lips.
Looking at your text here.
Well, she early on she did, because she said, "Did you see me on Zoom?"
She just dumped off.
Oh, she's just.
I don't think the tree board met last month. No, they didn't. So we won't worry
Maybe if
about
she
it.
calls back in, she'll be okay.
Okay, they didn't meet last month.
Well, we'll go on with the agenda. Tim, building permits and revenue and legal expenses.
Yep, building permits for January 2023, 11 building permits totaling $607,516 with revenue of $6,332. 7 electric permits issued totaling $1,342. 1 street cut permit issued to NIPSCO, revenue $100. Legal expenses paid in January totaling $4,875 to Brazier, Nelson and Janes. Lobbyist fees paid to Corridon Group totaling $12,500. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. I'll second it. Okay, I'm in favor. Mary Lou?
Aye.
John Wall?
I'm in favor, John Wall.
Mike?
Aye.
Doc? Right.
Yes.
Yay.
I guess we've lost the tree committee
Well, they didn't
report.
have a meeting, so, but if, I'm sure I'll hear.
Okay, well, we'll get back to her if she can get back
Okay.
on some way or other. Committee board appointments, we don't have a list of those yet, so we're gonna table that. Next item, Public Safety Building Corporation Board, we've already talked about that.
Oh, here she comes.
New business, Public Works,
Yeah.
we've talked about that. I'm moving along.
Did you have anything from this month? Ellen? Hello?
You got her on speaker, Meredith?
I do. See? Okay. All right, she's gone.
Okay, John, we're gonna put you on here on the rave.
RAVE is very simple. What it is the county emergency management came to us and asked us to inform our population that this is available. I'm sorry, I got it up. It's a notification system that the county has, the emergency management group has. So like tornadoes or whatever. I think all we'd ask is if the council's amenable, then Tim can just email out their information. It came to you, I apologize, it just came today, but if you can just kick that out to everybody so they know that they can either opt in or out of having their email and or I believe maybe even cell phones, but that you could get emergency notifications from the county or general information from the county. So it's not a sales thing, it's just strictly emergency kind of thing. And I think it's a good thing, unless the council does not like it.
No, I like it.
That sounds
I don't even know if we need a motion.
No, we don't need a motion for that, I wouldn't think. Anybody have any objections to going forward on that? Nope.
I'm so sorry. I'm having so much trouble with the Zoom. And
Yeah. Want to say that one more time, Bob?
I said I signed up for it this afternoon. It's either email or cell phone or both with text messages. And the process was very easy.
Okay, great. Okay, Chief, Community Center Emergency Exit Lights quotes.
Well, first we have to have it approved.
Yes, as we continue to make improvements at the community center, one thing that was brought to our attention is that the current emergency exit signs, which are a neon green, some of them need to be lowered because when you're at one end of a hallway, you're unable to see them because of the HVAC piping that's in the ceiling and that. So our recommendation is we've contacted a registered electrician, P&G Electric, with who is registered here in the town. He has given us an initial proposal of $1,000 to lower and move at least 5 locations and add 1 new location. I would ask that we set a budget at $1,600 because I have a fear as we go out into the marketplace looking for aftermarket parts to make these adjustments that we're going to run into some material needs. So the proposal is for $1,600 coming out of the Riverboat Fund to move 6 of the emergency exit signs at the community center, making them more easily visible to our residents.
I make that motion.
Here a second.
I'll second it, but I don't think if we have a budget, we don't really even have, this level of detail doesn't necessarily need to come to the council. I think if you've got a budget for it, I think we set a $5,000 limit, did we not? Mm-hmm. So Mark, I know you're doing this for, I'm not trying.
This one actually isn't budgeted for this year. That's why I wanted to take it out of Riverboat. We don't have it budgeted, and we don't, the money that's in the building maintenance fund for the community center this year, we've already had 2 rooms that have had heat pumps that have gone out, and my fear is the more we get into the year, we're gonna use up all our building maintenance funds, so.
Mea culpa. I second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion on it? Okay, call for a vote. Bob?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
Aye.
Coker, aye.
John Wall, aye.
Mike Johnstone, aye.
So
Carries.
while we were talking, Ellen did get a hold of me and apologize. She said, I paid for Zoom, I'm having trouble with it. And I said, no worries. She wanted to make sure you guys see the ordinance and she wanted to go to the contractors. And I said, well, first we have to approve it. So I will scan the ordinance and get you guys a copy. It's a proposal and that we can look at before the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item, the CCMG bid and award. John?
This is kind of old news, but we've already approved the dollars and everything. We're in good shape on that. We voted that already. But what's come up is the time frame. We had a little glitch. Tim's aware of it. We had to submit some paperwork to the workforce development that hadn't gotten in already. So the NDOT guys backed it up and said, time out, you got to get this paperwork in. We got the paperwork in, but now we're squeezed a little bit on bid award date. So what I'm suggesting to you guys, they're going to advertise it on the 17th, which is a couple of days from now. And then the pre-bid will be like the 3rd of March. The bids will be opened on the 13th. And then if it's okay with you guys, we're going to have a special meeting on March 20th just to approve these. If that's okay. I just want to, it's informational more than anything, unless somebody can't make it on the 20th, because we will have to award, which I'm assuming that means we have to have a majority in person.
Yeah.
So if you guys can tell me whether you can make the 20th, so we...
Monday?
Yes.
Okay. We have...
And I don't care, 20th of March.
We have 8.
Well, if 3 of us can get there, we're in good shape.
I think Bob will be here on the 20th, will you, for the APC?
We'll go back to 20th, that'll be good.
Okay, so that would be me,
You and I, okay, so we will have 3 of us for the 20th. What's your pleasure on time frame, guys?
Do you want to do it at 6:30, because our meeting's at 7?
Yeah, we can do it, whatever. It's a formality.
If we did it at 6:30, then we could have the APC at 7?
Yeah, that would be fine. I'll go ahead and put it on Zoom.
And John said he'd make our dinner that night.
I'll bring you whatever you want to eat, Mary Lou.
Right.
You've been so nice to me tonight. I will bring I'll shrimp, whatever, 6:30.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Stop 17 drainage project is something that Tim alluded to. Who's got that? John?
Yeah, and we've been talking about this for quite a while. Essentially, we held off on proceeding with the final engineering on that project because we wanted to see where we were at with finances. If you recall, at our last couple of budget and finance meetings, we've been talking about potentially doing a larger CCMG project and trying to hold on to our stormwater funds, which has a significant balance now, and we gather almost $250,000 a year. So we had originally planned on using that to pay for the $500,000 on that $1 million CCMG project, potentially in 2024. What I'd like to propose now is, rather than, maybe we'd push that project forward another year into 25, the big CCMG project, and then use the stormwater funds with the intent of doing the Stop 17 project ahead of that. So all I'm asking the council for tonight then is approval. Right now, there's some invoices that Tim's got, I think, from Haas that amounted to, they're actually I hate to just belabor this thing, but we had a project originally designed, and the homeowners did not want to take the trees out, which would have replaced the line. And so we had to pay for the borings, the soil borings to establish water level, and some of Haas's engineering. Much like some of our other contractors, he didn't invoice those until recently. So there's about $6,500 on preliminary design, then his boring guy, and it was another $6,000, so you're talking about $12,000 that we have to pay for the original design on that project, but then we have to release him to do the final engineering and then potentially do the project. I don't know what, we've reduced the scope now. We're not going to do quite a dramatic a project, and to Tim's point, we still don't have the exact design done, but we've got a few suggestions, and we can hold a little workshop or bring it to one of the meetings and discuss it. It's not going to happen right away, but I think we'd like to at least be able to release him to start on the final design so we come up with some. Right now, what we're talking about is probably putting some more drainage structures along Lakeshore Drive, diverting some of the water that shows up at 18, if you recall, on the south side of the road. It actually puddles there. So what we're going to try to do is divert some of that stuff. We may have to do some modifications to Stop 18 to get it out to the lake, but we haven't really finished those calculations yet. So that's what I'd like to propose tonight. If everybody's okay with that, I'd like to release him on his final. Keep in mind, this will come out of the stormwater. This won't affect general funds. But that way he can give us some more definitive information and do a little more engineering work. So that's my motion, if you guys are okay, if I can release him to start on final design on Stop 17 drainage project.
Yeah, my question was more, I think you addressed it, John, but I'm not familiar with the project at all, so that was more my question.
Our original concept that we're paying these bills for now was we were gonna put a brand new line in on Risby's property. It's a private line, I'm sorry, it's a public line on a private property, which we really don't want to have anymore. So what we're going to do is, because they didn't want us to do that, take their old trees down, we're going to now do a drainage project that consists of some more drainage catch basins and dry wells, and then divert some of that water from the south side across the road down at 18. There's a tremendous amount of water that comes down the hill from 19, if you can imagine that hill.
From 19?
Yeah, there's a bunch of water that comes from 19 to 18, I should say. So we're going to try to capture some of that, get that stuff on the south side, new structures, more capacity, and then probably divert a little bit of that at 18, and then be able to pull that line out at 17. That's the plan right now.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, I'll look forward to seeing more detail. But
yeah, and we won't pull the trigger until we get the final design. We won't be bidding this thing until we get that done, but I just wanted to make the motion that we allow them to proceed on final design.
Okay, we got a motion. Any second? No second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of John's motion, say, Dr. Lemay? Aye. Mary Lou?
Aye.
Coker, aye.
Wall, aye.
Johnstone, aye.
Okay, motion carried. Next item is Police Department. Mark?
Yes, last July, we started discussions of adding an additional ATV to the police fleet. Currently, we have 2 all-terrain vehicles. However, those are single-seat all-terrain vehicles, which only allows for the deputy to patrol on that actual vehicle. So we began looking at a option for a 6-seater ATV, at which time Britt Whitfield generously donated $10,000 to the town to assist with the eventual purchase of such vehicle. We went out and sought quotes from 4 different vendors here in the nearby vicinity. The lowest quote was from Maxim Power Sports, which is a Polaris 6-seater all-terrain vehicle for $24,197.47. The other quotes were $25,457, $25,285, and $25,285. So our recommendation to the council tonight is to allow the police department to move forward with the purchase of a 6-seater all-terrain vehicle. This would be utilized for beach rescue operations shared by both police and fire. This vehicle would be stored in a new public safety facility. We would also use it for patrol operations in the summer to travel on the town roadways. I would also like to add one of the frequent complaints that we get in the summer, and currently I am experiencing a large number last year of complaints in the Duneland Beach area of underage drinking on the beach. This year we've got a different patrol approach on how we're going to address some of the underage drinking down there. Often when we get teenagers who are drinking, it's very difficult to get them from the beach back up to Lakeshore Drive. This 6-seater ATV would allow us to put an intoxicated individual onto the vehicle, and we could transport the individual along the lakeshore into one of the nearest stairwells to assist the individual up to a patrol car on Lakeshore Drive. So the proposal for this, in addition to the $24,197.47 to make the purchase for the actual vehicle itself, which I have a photo here if anybody would like to see, we have to then take into consideration several things. One is $500 in graphics, $4,700 in emergency lighting, and also covering the installation of the emergency lighting. And then we would like to add to the back compartment a medical insert The medical insert would allow us to put a Stokes basket, more or less a backboard. So if we had a drowning victim that we brought out of the water, we could have them on an actual Stokes basket, which is similar to a portable gurney. Portable gurney would then be placed onto the back of the medical insert. There's also a seat on the medical insert that allows either an emergency responder or a family member to sit there, and it has a storage compartment in it as well. That unit is $3,750 plus shipping, so I estimate it to be about $3,900. And then we have to have a base radio on the vehicle. The radio itself is $4,000 for an 800 megahertz radio. However, I was able to contact some of my previous colleagues at the City of Michigan City, and the Michigan City Police Department donated the $4,000 radio to the town, which was previously purchased under the countywide funding for the 800 megahertz. So therefore, we will not be spending $4,000 on the radio. All in, we are looking at $33,297.47. When you take the $10,000 from the Britt Whitfield donation off, it brings the purchase price to $23,297.47, and the recommendation is to pay for this vehicle from the golf cart revenue. Currently, we have approximately $20,000 in that revenue account, and this year we will be bringing in an additional $19,000 to $20,000. So by year's end, we will have $40,000 in that account. One of the things that we've always said with the permitting process for the golf carts is that we're going to use those funds to patrol for any golf cart violations or other needs of the police department. So this would be a perfect use of those revenue permit fees that we bring in each year. So that would be my recommendation.
Anybody make a motion to approve this?
Access points to the beach for ATVs?
Great question. Friday, I went down to stop 14. I spoke to both homeowners, both east and west of that stop. We will have to make a slight modification to the wood bench that's currently there. This vehicle is approximately 16 inches wider than our current ATVs, but once we remove the one side of the wood bench, we'd be able to get down at stop 14. We could also get down at stop 16 and stop 24.
This is Captain.
I make that motion to accept the amount of $23,297.
Second.
$297.40.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
We get those access points to Dublin?
From Duneland, we will come down at stop 31 where they have their lot there. Shoreland has. Yeah, there's an access point there also.
Okay.
Okay, it's moved and seconded that we approve the purchase. All in favor? Doc?
Aye.
Aye.
Mary Lou, aye. Sean Coker, aye.
John Wall, aye.
Mike Johnstone, aye.
Okay. Get it.
Thank you.
The next item is a purchase request for 5 new town welcome signs. I believe that's Chief's information.
Last December, the building commission had passed an ordinance making the fines for unregistered contractors and/or homeowners that have unregistered contractors working in their homes. The previous fine was $100. The fine has now been increased to a $500 fine, which can both be applicable to the resident and the unregistered contractor. Therefore, it was discussed that the town have the responsibility of at least notifying anyone entering into the town that all contractors must register at the town hall. So therefore, we began discussions of either putting this on the current welcome signs coming into the town at 4 of its locations, or designing a new welcome sign. So over the past few months, I've been working on a design for a new welcome to Long Beach sign. At the bottom of the sign would say all contractors must register at the town hall. The idea for the new welcome signs was taking the town logo and utilizing that within the welcome sign and kind of stretching it out into a sign that would be 48 inches by 36 inches tall. They would be installed in front of Hacienda, Lakeshore Drive at both ends, stop 13, stop 31, and then at Mount Clair and Moore Road in the current planter box where we currently have a timber sign that is there. The new Welcome to Long Beach sign would be similar to this photograph. It would be very bright, summer beach-like theme, and the total cost of the project is estimated to be $1,600, and the recommendation would be to take that from riverboat funds because we do not have that budgeted, and or I guess we could take it out of the building commission, possibly out of their funds, since it's going to be helping them as well. But irregardless, I would like to start working on this project to have the signs hopefully in place by Memorial Day weekend. They would be mounted on 3-inch round black painted poles that would not go past the top of the sign, and I would work with the superintendent of streets, Tom Dolph, on the locations, making sure that they do not obstruct the right-of-way and or the vision of anyone coming or going from the various locations that they would be placed at.
Chief, one thought I have is, given the fact that we're going to go with this computerized permitting and registration process, maybe we ought to say must register with the town hall instead of at. Sorry about that. I hadn't thought of it until now.
Not a problem. So it would say all contractors must register with the town hall.
I make that motion to purchase these for $1,600.
I'll second it.
It's been seconded, what? Quick, okay, any other discussion? All in favor, Bob Lemay? Aye. Mary Lou? Aye. Coker, aye.
John Wall, aye.
Mike Johnstone, aye.
Okay, passes. Next item, Police Department. Mark, you're on again.
Back in January, all of the LaPorte County law enforcement agencies had met with Keesler Police Supply and the Glock manufacturer to test the new Glock 45 9mm semi-automatic handgun. We had tested that handgun with a optic system, which would assist our officers in better proficiency with their firearms from a longer distance. This is an up-and-coming technology for law enforcement. So therefore, what I'm asking for tonight, we have the funds in our current budget, so I'm not asking for any additional funding. I am just asking for the consent of the town council to allow the police department to trade in 7 of our current Glock Model 17 9mm pistols, and also to trade in 4 of our AR-15 223 patrol rifles. Obviously those weapons are currently in inventory at the police department, so I'm looking at asking for permission to trade those 11 weapons for the purchase of 7 Glock 45s and 1 AR-15 patrol rifle. The patrol rifles that we are trading, 3 out of the 4 are fully automatic rifles. Those are very seldom used in law enforcement anymore due to the liability, and we are going to the semi-automatic. So therefore, that is the reason I want to get rid of 3 of them. And then the other one is an aging patrol rifle, and a new patrol rifle would be purchased. In addition, for full transparency, I want the council also to understand that the officers who, like myself, the Glock 17 that I am currently carrying, we will be given a trade value of $310 for the trade of the actual firearm. I believe when they were purchased new, the department paid approximately $480 for them, so we're receiving $310 in trade, and our officers are given the opportunity to purchase the firearms back from the firearms distributor, which is a federally licensed dealer. The officers would then have to pay for the ATF paperwork, which is additional with their fees, and the additional ATF paperwork is approximately $50 to $60. So I just want everybody to understand that our officers, as law enforcement officers and other departments do this as well, we can purchase our weapons back, but we do pay a higher fee to buy them back from the distributor. And I think the majority of our officers will be buying their sidearms back. So again, no funding request, just the authorization to trade in the 11 firearms.
I make that motion to trade in the firearms.
And give him authorization to do that? Second, anybody?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Bob?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
Aye.
Coker, aye.
Wall, aye.
Johnstone, aye.
All right. Next item on the agenda is automatic external defibrillator purchase.
Last year, the town began to receive from the Indiana Attorney General's office settlement funds from a federal lawsuit, which was for an opioid lawsuit. Communities across Indiana and other states are receiving these funds. These are funds that we will receive for the next several years. Therefore, as these funds are received, which we have already begun to receive some of the funds, there are restricted and unrestricted uses of the actual funds from the settlement. Dr. LeMay had asked me to begin to explore some opportunities for the use of the funds. Currently, all of our officers carry Narcan for any potential overdose needs. Those are provided to us from the LaPorte County Health Department at no cost to us. So as we began to look at the funds that we're receiving, one of the ideas that we came up with was purchasing a automated electronic defibrillator that could be placed here in the town hall in the lobby, available for use also at the community center, because currently we do not have an AED at either facility. Our deputies have AEDs in their vehicles. However, if they're away from the town hall and we had a sudden cardiac arrest in the lobby, or for instance in this meeting room tonight, we wouldn't have an AED available to us. So these funds, I would like to recommend that as the account begins to grow, that the town authorize the purchase of 2 AEDs using the lawsuit settlement funds that have been gifted to us as part of the purchase. Each of these units are roughly about $2,000 each, so an expenditure of $4,000, and we would make that purchase over the next year or so as the funds continue to be received by the town. And again, just one last thing, we have to use them for specific reasons, and life-saving and medical health is one of those that we could use, and it would benefit all of us here at the town.
So moved.
Here a second?
I second it.
Any further discussion? All right, call for a vote. Bob LeMay?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
Aye.
Coker, aye.
Wall, aye.
Johnstone, aye.
Next item, approval invoice for the police vehicle.
I promise this is the last one. Last January, this council approved the purchase of a police responder F-150 for the police department's fleet to replace one of our aging vehicles, either a 2013 or a 2014 Ford Taurus that we currently have. We knew at the time when we ordered it last January, we were given a time frame of 12 to 16 months to receive the vehicle. We just received the vehicle last week. It took us 13 months to receive, and ironically, at the same time we received the vehicle, we are experiencing a problem with one of the transmissions in one of the other vehicles, so it could not have come at a better time. So this authorization to purchase was approved last year. I just need authorization to have a check cut for the amount of $49,932.25, and that is after the government incentives have been taken off of the invoice, and when checking with other dealers, the same vehicle is well over $52,000 to $53,000 a purchase. So we did receive it at a discounted price through the government assistance program.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the invoice for $49,932 and change?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Bob LeMay?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
Aye.
Coker, aye.
Wall, aye.
Johnstone, aye.
Whee!
Thank you.
That's it.
We've already done the rest of it.
Well, we did, there's only one thing I want to bring up. You know, the schedule that the bond guy gave us, assuming that we, you know, all the ducks fall in a row in the hearings and everything else, we may not have the funds until May, according to his schedule. So the bond funds, we may be under obligation because we don't want to stop the design process. there's a downstroke on the building and some design work that'll be invoiced the end of February and payable the end of March. There's this 30-day billing cycle up of about 50,000. And then there'll be another payment that will be invoiced the end of March. It'll be due the end of April to the tune of about 25,000. So I just wanted to make everybody aware. We obviously haven't seen the invoices yet, but I just wanted to bring everybody's attention. We may have to cover that until and then reimburse ourselves with the bond funds. I just wanted to get that out in the open so everybody knew.
Okay.
There's no action required. I just
All right. Any other discussion on that? No? All right, public comments? Anybody on Zoom, first of all?
Is anybody still on?
Is anybody still on?
19 people.
Yeah, this is for Rizvi. Can I make a couple of comments, please?
Who is this?
This is for Rizvi 21, at 1636 Lakeshore Drive.
Hey, good evening.
I have two comments. One, I think you were discussing about the interest rate. Interest rate is today for the T-bill for 6 months is 5.02%. And if you keep even in your money, daily balance is somehow need to negotiate with your bank. They should be paying you between 4.57 basis point everyday balance which you have in the bank. And for the T-bill, you really don't have to invest $1 million. You can invest $800,000. You can invest $50,000. Whatever you like to buy, you can buy the T-bills from Charles Schwab or Fidelity or other business. If you buy from Charles Schwab, there is no transaction fee. So you can certainly save a lot of money if you keep this by the T-bills, and they are guaranteed by the US government, and they can be, if you invest in a CDs, they are not guaranteed more than $250,000. That's the one comment. The second comment I have seen that article in the Beaches, I think a cover called Beecher. I think my suggestion will be on July 8th, we should have Bob, LeMay, and Dora Day, because I think they deserve, after doing so much service to the community, so that day should be called Bob LeMay and Dora Day, please.
No comment.
Oh,
Thank you, Zafar.
Anyone else there on Zoom? Anyone? Anyone in the audience? Ernie? Push the button there.
Ernie Summers, 2711 Elbridge Way. I am a resident of Long Beach since 1958 and moved here when I was 6 years old. And there was a short period when I didn't own property here, but I'm a long timer and I love Long Beach. I just wanted you to know that when I retired, I moved back here full time, even though I had a place here when I was living in Chicago. I am concerned, frankly. We've got 11 or 1,200 homes in Long Beach, and we're talking millions of dollars here. We were told by Mr. Sender at the December 27th meeting that we're up against our debt limit. Now, where is all this money coming from? I'd like to see a little bit of an accounting for that. I'm not opposing any of the items that we're purchasing or spending on, and I agree with what Mr. Johnstone said. The construction concept drawings were approved with a cap of $2.5 million, and Mr. Wall very quickly added an amendment to that it wouldn't preclude coming back with a request for more money if they need it after you spend that $2.5 million. I think we should look at spending the $2.5 million before we start asking for more money or carving things out. I don't know how you're funding. There was soil borings done in the parking lot, and that wasn't expensive, but does that come out of the $2.5 million? I think we need to have an accounting, and we should have it on every town council meeting, how much we've spent toward the public safety building, how much we've spent toward other things. Some of the items that we came up, they add up to some big numbers. And I was very disappointed, I will say, that there was no mention anywhere on this agenda or in any of the discussions that there's a $500,000 lawsuit against the town by Michigan City. And most of the town residents have already got a copy of that. I was given a blind copy from the Long Beach Lakefront Homeowners Association, which I'm not even a member of. And I went down to the courthouse and pulled a copy of the lawsuit, and it's a significant lawsuit. And one thing I will mention, for those of you who don't do insurance work, I did 40 years of insurance law work. Your liability insurance policy covers injuries. It covers personal bodily injury, it covers property damage, it covers personal injury liability like trespass or wrongful entry. It does not cover contract liability, and this is a contract liability. The town is going to be responsible for the legal fees. You really should be accounting for what we're spending in the run rate on the lawsuit by Michigan City, because it's very hard to keep track of all these numbers, and then you add them up and it comes to millions and millions of dollars. Well, where's the money coming from? And I know everybody says, well, we can get it, we can borrow it, we can defer the principal payments. I'm not sure that we're following good accounting principles or good financial principles here, but I'd like to see how we're doing it. That's my comment.
Thank you.
If I could just return a comment. Ernie, you're welcome at the budget and finance meetings anytime you want to come. We've been talking about contingencies for some of these items for a long, long time in the budget and finance meetings, and you're welcome to come to any of those.
I appreciate that, and I might.
It's Wednesday, 8:30.
But I would remind everybody, one of the town residents at the December 27th meeting harkened back to the sewer project and said, let's not screw up the construction for this public safety building the way we did the sewers. There's a widespread perception that the sewers were handled wrong. And I just add that. But thank you.
I might as well throw my 2 cents in. Hi, Bob Boyce, Stop 29. Up till now, the public safety building has been in a concept mode. It probably still is. It was put on an overlay on an old Plata survey. I suppose, I'd like to know, are we going to have a new Plata survey? Has one been ordered yet? And if it has, are you going to do an overlay so we can see how this thing really sits on the property out there? Because a lot of the neighbors, I think, are going to be concerned that it's going to have an encroachment on their driveways, on their access to the back of their houses, and the parking for Stop 24. And if I'm not wrong, the parking for Stop 24 was part of an agreement to get the grant for 24, that we would have parking available for people using Stop 24. Now, I don't know if that's been addressed yet, because you'd have to look at a Plata survey and show how the building would be set on it. The other thing is, I've been involved in projects like this before. I've watched them go upside down in a New York minute. And I'm just wondering, has the project manager on this job done a feasibility survey to see exactly what's hidden, what might come back up to bite you? I mean, that's pretty important. There could be all kinds of hidden things that you don't see today, but you'll see tomorrow. The septic, I looked at the print that was put together, and that print basically shows the septic line going nowhere. It just like disappears into the front of the town hall. Now, it almost looks like it was going to be hooked up to the old septic that we no longer use. That may become a problem. And finally, and this bothered me a lot, but I'm sure it can be corrected, when the building's complete, being a public safety building, how much is going to be delegated to the police department? Right now, I scaled it, and it shows an area of 15 feet by 80 feet. That's 1,200 square feet. Now, it's a 10,400 square foot building. If it's only 15 feet deep, you can't even pull a squad car in. There's no overhead doors on the back of the building. So it's basically a storage area. And I would think if you're going to have something like that, and you want to have where you can pull squad cars in, you can pull equipment in, there should be overhead doors in the back, and the depth should be a minimum of 25 feet. I don't think, you know, and there again, I just scaled the building. So, you know, I could be off by a foot or two, but no more than that. And it just doesn't seem like, being a public safety building, we're giving anything to the police department. That's pretty much it. But, you know, I hate to see this thing be like driving a car over the cliff. Great view till you reach the bottom. So I just think that maybe it's just going to take a little bit of planning. I'm not going to get involved in the financials for it because, again, there's no way to predict it. Most projects like this are plus or minus 10%. And that's just, you know, that's just a standard of the industry. But, and I think the approach is correct because you should compartmentalize it. It shouldn't be a complete project, this is what it costs. It should be, this is what it's going to cost to put the building together. This is what's going to cost for the mechanicals, HVAC, plumbing, this and that. And then you reach a point where if you have to look at something and say we're going to wait a little later, you would take the interior. And you say, well, maybe we can't put the offices in right now. Maybe we can't do this. So maybe we're just going to be able to put the fire trucks in and keep them out of the rain. And we'll have to do this later. Because it's more important to keep the thing under cover than it is to finish the inside. But you don't want to run wild and go upside down. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Just to answer a couple of questions, your PLATA survey, we have a current PLATA survey that we did within the last year that's been used for what you're describing, so we've covered that base. The septic was shown on that particular plan just as a schematic. The hope is we can tie into the existing system. We're negotiating with the county. We talked to them early on in the project as opposed to what the country club experienced. We talked to them early on in the project and we're still in negotiations with them to see. We're also talking to the Indiana Department of Health relative to the septic and what we're going to have to do. As far as the police area, we've been in constant contact with Mark. There's going to be overhead doors. He's fairly happy with what we've described and he's involved with the process all the way. So in terms of what the police will wind up with and the meeting room, which would be able to be used for the kind of meetings we have here when we're all crammed in here like sardines, or when we have to go over to the community center and we can't hear each other because the HVAC comes on. So all those things have been talked about and addressed. We're trying to get that done. As far as the cost itemization, if you were listening earlier, we have a sheet that shows every line item and we're going to track that all the way through the project. So that's the way the contract is set up. It's a not to exceed number. They have to give us a master estimate at the front, which they've done, and then periodically any changes will be addressed on that estimate every time they happen.
Will that be available to the general public?
It's all public information, Bob, as you know. If anybody knows about how to get public information, it's you. So we will have public information available on all those decisions.
Great.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anita?
Good evening, Anita Remiges, 2300 Florimond. Chief, I want to thank you. I had reached out to Chief asking him whether he would entertain doing public CPR training, and it happened, he had just talked about the AEDs, so I was hoping that was something that could be done between the fire department, the police department. I think it's important, especially now that we're getting these AEDs, that we know how to do that. He did mention it was a project maybe that would be pushed out a little bit, but if there's anything that I can help with or someone can help with to try and see if the community's interested, that would be great. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for the votes on the financing, on the construction. I think it's really important, and thank you for all the answers to Mr. Boyce, because when you get a comment that Mr. Summers makes about the sewers were poorly handled, I think Mr. Coker, you were on the committee even before you were on the council. So it was 6-7 years ago. I mean, it's ongoing, and you hear from people, but I didn't know, but nobody told me. I didn't know. No one told me. You mentioned come to a budget and finance meeting. Maybe I will. I mean, there are ways to come and find out what is happening in this town, and I don't think things are being hid. You said, you know, Mr. Boyce knows how to find things. So there are ways to find things out. My other comment is I just want to commend the Building Commission. I know Dr. LeMay is here. Mr. Coker, you're on the commission. I think that there are ongoing efforts by the Building Commission to enforce the town ordinances, including residences, including beach stairs. You see the homeowners blame the contractor. You see the contractor blame the homeowner. I had an instance of it just behind my house, and where people, I think, are almost proud that they're not paying exactly what they should be, or they're getting work done, and you know, if they close the garage door, nobody will notice 6 trucks in a driveway. So I don't know how that can be remedied, whether that's something, you know, I don't want to put more on chief, but is that something that Honor can do, that someone can drive around in the morning? I mean, I think it's crucial that you know what's happening in your town. Whether you're a council person, you're on a committee. I just think that, I really just want to say it does fall on the residents, again, the responsibility to understand the ordinances. I know our attorney mentioned education, so what will that be? I mean, I'd love to say you can, look, we put it in the Beecher, but we do have a town hall, we do have a great, you know, I mean, there are people at the front desk, the forms are there, so I don't know how else to make that happen, but I just want to thank the Building Commission and the Commissioner as well. Thank you.
The only thing I'd say in answer to your question about the CPR class is actually the fire department recertifies every year. We actually purchase some CPR mannequins, so we could certainly work with Mark and try to come up with some kind of a program for, that's a great idea, public education on CPR. We'll put that on the front burner.
Any other comments? Donna?
Thank you. It's kind of intimidating coming right up here. Well, I have you beat. I was dragged here in 1956, okay? So, some of the people on the council I grew up with, I've been here off and on all these years. I've served on several boards myself. This building that we're in right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I, kind of being in the media, I noticed when I was out jogging one morning that there was a bulldozer across the street. I don't know how much you remember of this phase in our community, but we were going to tear this down. And so I went out and talked to people, got a really great woman who was an architect designer. We redid the whole building so we could save it. And look at it. I mean, it's beautiful. We had to conform to, you know, the windows and everything, the way that the Preservation Commission wanted us for the state. But what disturbs me now, and I don't want to be nasty, that's why I wore my Love t-shirt, sweatshirt. I just think, you know, you're really great. The people that are here and people out there watching, etc., and residents I talk to, and I'll try to be brief, they want to be involved, but they feel like the leadership is hiding a lot of things. And I think we need to be much more open. You know, I fought for the deer. You did, Bob. That was kind of hidden. We had to find out about that, and we fought it for almost 2 years. And, you know, that decision was made, finally based on, and Dr. LeMay, wherever you are, the man behind the curtain, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You finally took a vote, and I appreciated that. But what's going on right now is this lawsuit. How did we get here? I mean, I was on the building commission, and I tried to help us get seawalls to protect our septics from falling in, and the powers that be didn't like that, so they kicked me off the building commission. But hence, look at the trouble we had. This lawsuit is very disturbing, and I hope people who are watching, or I've spread the word because I think we need to know. It was filed in Superior Court 1. It's, you know, complaining that we breached the contract. We did all this work and we haven't paid the city of Michigan City. There are many people from Michigan City that called me today. They wanted to come here, but it would be a conflict of interest. But they're very aware about this lawsuit, and so am I, and so are a lot of second homeowners that have been contacting me, Donna, what's going on? And frankly, I put it on the radio. Ron Miller talked about it. I've sent it out to different people. We have to solve this. This is over $500,000 that they're suing us for. And I know it's a big problem, and I applaud you for the work that you do, but it's insane. Plus, they want us to pay their legal fees and other damages, and how did we get here? And I respect what you're saying about people getting involved, but why are we making these decisions? And you know, I have come to know Mr. Perry, and I've heard certain members of the town council just disparage him. He was appointed, okay? He's not a town clerk. There's one in South Bend, Indiana that forgot to bring up a meeting about reparations for the black community, and they didn't call him all sorts of names and accuse him of being an idiot or whatever else. They just said, okay, this person is new, they need more training, we'll work it out. And I just have to say one other thing. You know, I've been harassed by a family here that lives not too far from me. I had to file a police report. The other day, I take care of my 76-year-old cousin who's now homebound in my house, has Alzheimer's. Somebody drove by and shot, we believe now, blanks at the deer in my front yard. Now, I can't control them. They've been coming over my house my parents bought in 1961. What's going on? I mean, it's just frustrating. And I think that I respect the work you do, but this family across from me not only has harassed me, but they've harassed other people who've come to me and said, I'm afraid of these people. And I think it was the last town council meeting, you actually apologized to them. You know what the reason for all that was, because he was harassing me. And you apologized to him, you paid their legal fees. As President Biden would say, we have to get to the root causes of a lot of this, and I just really hope that we can somehow come to an agreement with this ridiculous lawsuit and that we don't have to face that anymore. And I applaud the work that you all do. I know it's not easy. I've been on several boards myself. Tim, I'm sorry, as a member of the community, that you've been disparaged the way you have, because I know you're trying to work really hard and learn the job and all of that. And for the rest of you, please, let's be more transparent. You should tell people about this lawsuit, and I'm glad you brought it up. And then we have to do the right things for our community, because it's a beautiful place. And that gentleman right over there, he's watching us, okay? And he wants us to do the right thing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna. Anybody else? Any council comments? Bob? You have any comments? Any comments? Any other comments? Claims approval?
Claims approval. Town checks 19,503 to 19,583 totaling $201,791.09. Water Department checks numbers 54653 to 54665 totaling $76,513.30. January payroll, which includes longevity, $96,282.62. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
A couple questions. Tim, check number 19577 was, I believe, mistakenly written to the Drug Free Partnership. Has that situation been corrected?
It is. We discussed it with the chief, and we made an error. What was it? An invoice from the town appeared to. It looked like to my group to be an invoice from the vendor, and because of that we paid it, and it is, I believe the money has since been returned to the town, and we are implementing a voucher program that will be discussed at Budget and Finance so that we can alleviate future confusion.
And a few months back, there was a check mistakenly written in response to a solicitation for website domains. Did that situation get corrected also?
Did I think it was 9 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, but a solicitation came through, and my deputy clerk paid it with, made an error. It was a nominal amount of money. I think it was under $300, but in any regard, I know we contacted the vendor. I think we got the money back. I can't swear to it, but I will certainly follow up.
Great. That's all I got.
Okay, then, do we have a motion to approve the claims?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? No? Vote. Bob?
Aye.
Mary Lou?
Aye.
Cover, aye.
Wall, aye.
Johnstone, aye.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yay!
Meeting adjourned.
Well, you kept it under 3 hours.
Good job, Joe.